Ray, I mentioned earlier that the culture war that's happening in America is really a spiritual war uh, at its root, and we Christians are we're being tested, quite frankly, because the pressure is really being brought to bear. Now, I'm not saying the pressure in the sense that it's brought to bear in places like China,
Right.
for example, or maybe some Muslim countries where our Christian brothers and sisters are actually physically jailed and persecuted,
Yeah.
because of their Christian faith. But there is a social unacceptance that's growing for people who believe in the gospel and people who, try to serve Jesus Christ and try to live by Christian morality, especially if we take that into the marketplace of ideas. We're at a point now that a lot of these secularists and the humanists and the atheists, they don't care so much right now, at least, as long as you keep your faith inside your church.
Right.
But you try to impact culture, that's when they get angry and upset, and really it's Satan and God at war in the heavenlies, as the
Yeah.
Bible describes it. Because Ray, you did this in your 180 video. You took on the life issue. You know, the God says it's wrong to murder, and taking the life of an unborn baby is killing an innocent human being, which is the definition of murder.
Right.
But so that's when you start talking about that kind of thing and having people be accountable for their actions. That's when we humans don't like to be told how we're supposed to live, do we, Ray?
Yeah, and there's a reason that the atheists, etc., are so zealous. They're like religious zealots.
Even though they don't believe in religion.
That's it. It's for their cause, and there's a reason they're like that. Christianity is a threat to their great pleasure. They love pornography, fornication, having sex with their gorgeous girlfriend, and Christianity says, no, it's wrong. Before I was a Christian, typical guy, just lusted after women, had great pleasure in doing it. The night I became a Christian, I looked at the verse which said, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you, whoever looks upon a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her in his heart. And I was horrified. Not horrified that I'd sinned against God. I was horrified that God was putting his finger on a thing that I so loved. You see, to surf and get pleasure out of surfing, I had to dangle my legs as shark bait in cold water. If I wanted to get pleasure at a party, I had to go and get a little drunk to enjoy the party.
Right.
But lust was instant pleasure. And so lust, and the Bible says the whole world is in corruption because of lust. Lust is instant pleasure for the atheist. And Christianity says, no, we're taking that pleasure from you. So what they're going to do is they're going to fight it tooth and nail, because they're fighting for fornication, for pornography, for all the things that give them so much pleasure, and so they're going to fight with tooth and nail. And the miracle of conversion is that God takes your heart. He says, hey, that stick of dynamite that you're holding in your hand, it's going to blow up in your face, even though it gives you pleasure to see it sparkle. That's sexual sin. It's going to be the death of you. God takes your heart and transforms it on the inside so you love that which is right. And that's a miracle. People say, how do you know God's real? Man, the first time I was born, it was radical. I didn't exist, and then I did. The second time I was born by the power of the Spirit, it was just as radical. Everything looked different to me. The flowers opened their faces to God's glory. The birds sang his praises in the morning. The trees lifted up their hands and praised to God. Everything looked different because I was different. And that's the power of the gospel. All these things like politics just change the government. But Christianity takes it just shakes the branches, but Christianity takes an axe to the root of the tree and transforms the human being so he loves that which is right. And that's why we've got to pick up the axe of the gospel as the church. We've got a sleeping giant that does everything but evangelize. And that's why our videos are so important. They will put the axe in your hand. They will take the feather duster out and give you courage, because your weapon will give you courage. If you're taught how to use an Uzi, and thrown into the heat of battle, that weapon will give you courage. And that's all we do, is teach people how to use the weapons of warfare that God's given us.
What website do you want people to go to?
livingwaters.com. And if I don't mention the book, The Beatles, God, and the Bible, my publisher's going to be upset at me.
Well, go ahead.
And, I wrote a book called The Beatles, God, and the Bible, from which we produced geniusthemovie.com. But that's a book you can give to an unsaved person and about the Beatles' spirituality. It's published by WorldNet Daily. And I wrote the whole book in a New Zealand accent.
Where can people find that book?
World Net Daily, at WND.com.
And it's called what? The Beatles what?
The Beatles, God, and the Beatles were a rock group in the last century.
Yeah.
The Beatles, God, and the Bible.
All right. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very well. Ray Comfort joining us from California. We got